Hi, my name's Kara-Leah, and over the last month or so I've been exploring this idea of waking up on one hand, so living a more present life, and also taking concrete action in the world to change the way that things are. And obviously the world is always changing, it's always in a state of flux. However, from my perspective, what I'm looking out at and seeing, it seems to me like I don't want to say that things need to change because, like I said, they are already changing. It's more like it's become almost inevitable that things are going to change. And so I'm going with that. I'm going with this idea that, yeah, hell yeah, there's going to be a revolution. Things are already changing right now. And how do I want to experience the world? And then how do I be that which I want to experience? So today I'm going to talk about a book that has recently been written that nails both of these topics, the idea of consciousness and awakening, and the ideas of organising the world in a different way that works better. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Revolution by Russell Brand. Russell kept me up a few nights. Probably only took me about 3 nights to finish the book though, because I was enthralled. I'm going to say right off the bat that I have a personal bias here, right? Because I have, for the last 10 years or so, had this concept or this idea or this knowing that everything that we see out there in the world will change and is changing as everything that is going on inside our worlds changes. And that it's not just about imposing new systems on the external, but it's about having a whole new understanding of what it means to be a human being. And so that knowing that I've got is why I'm so biased for Russell, because in essence, that is what the man says. He says that 2 things. 1, we need to wake up, and we're already waking up, and he shares what waking up means to him. And 2, we need new structures because the old structures plainly are not working for the majority of people, and he says it clear. So I'm going to read you a few quotes out of the book, partly because I really want to give you a flavour for Russell and for what he's saying, and partly because, yes, I'm reviewing this book, but at the same time, I don't want my own personal biases and filters and everything to get in the way of sharing the book with you. So in terms of reading a little bit out, it might give a bit of a flavour so you understand, because especially for those of you that have never watched Russell or read Russell. Okay. So this is, I love this bit, I really do. I'm going to just read straight out, and I'm not going to be pretending to be Russell or anything, I'm me, obviously. Before I go on stage, or even on a TV show, I prepare my mind, my consciousness. I repeat prayers, which really are linguistic codes that attune consciousness. Words, mantras, vibrations that initiate neurological processes. I treat the experience of going on stage, performing, as sacred. The origin of theatre is in religion. There is shamanism in performance. Don't get me wrong, there doesn't have to be. You can get up on stage in front of thousands of people and confirm things they already know if you like. But it is an opportunity to bring down information from other realms to induce a collective state. I love it. That's that sense I get when I watch Russell in some of his interviews, is that he is getting present, tuning into the moment, and he's channeling information. He's just bringing it through so fast, it's like he's not even thinking it up. And because he is naturally verbose and funny, it comes through in that way. And it shows you how he's got a deep sense of how the sacred is embedded in everything. That when we choose to live our lives as an offering to the sacred, as an offering to the divine, then what we experience shifts. And I love that too. Alright, should we read another little bit? So that was shamanism. Hang on, let me remove that marker so I know I've done it. Alright, living in the moment. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Because for some of us, the concept of, being a shaman or being sacred or the divine, it's like, nah, don't want to go near that right now. Well, maybe you could think about living in the moment. Okay, this is from chapter 17, War. What is it good for? Capitalism, obviously. If you can transcend the limits of the instinctual and anatomical self, you can become part of a kingdom of unified consciousness defined by power, glory, and eternity. This is a journey I have made, but enlightenment is not like a summit that can be scaled, then perched atop of like a jolly mountaineer with rosy cheeks eating a pork pie. It is a commitment to live in the moment. When I consider myself to be a member of a community living in the present, my agenda lifts, my agency returns, and I am no longer a passive and redundant consumer, but an awakened citizen. And I think that is the call for all of us right now, is to move away from being passive and redundant consumers into being awakened citizens. And I mean, Russell's been doing a lot of yoga and meditation, and he says basically there that he's experienced enlightenment, and he's not saying that he knows it all, or that he's some amazing guru. But what he's saying is that those moments of enlightenment, when literally you tune into that deeper sense of self, to that all that is, and you are no longer identified with your thoughts, you're no longer identified with your feelings, you're not even identified with your body, you just get a sense that you are the greater ground of being or awareness. And that's an amazing thing to experience. And you know what? If someone like Russell, who, like, he's almost representative of what we're sold as the pinnacle of the system. Like, here's this guy who's from, not a great town in England, and he grew up and he became a drug addict. He was addicted to food before, so he was a fat kid. But he was funny and he was talented, and he used that funniness and that talent to do extremely well and become, top of his profession. And then he became a celebrity with all of that entails. He became famous, he became rich. Like, all of those things that so many young people are aspiring to be, thinking that that is what's going to make them happy. But of course, Russell discovered, as so many people do, that all that fame and all that fortune, all those women and all those drugs, all those things, all those material pleasures did not shift the fundamental discord that he felt with life. And so it wasn't until he learned through yoga and meditation how to disidentify with the ego and identify with awareness that he began to feel that sense of peace and groundedness. And this is why I love the book so much. If someone like Russell can have those experiences and write about them, and then all of those people that follow him read that book and start to get a sense of, yeah, man, enlightenment, that's a cool thing. I wonder what that's all about. Maybe I should do some yoga or meditation. Who knows, this could be the beginning of tipping point, could be. Right, let's move that one out. This is a Yogananda quote that he's got in that same chapter. Actually, we'll go back one paragraph to a quote from Jefferson. It's interesting, isn't it? Like, all these different people talking about similar things, but from a different perspective. So Jefferson said, "Enlighten the people generally, and tyranny and oppressions of body and mind will vanish like evil spirits at the dawn of day." And that's what Russell's intending to do here. He would like to, shine a big old light on what he sees going on in the world and say, you know what, this is crap, this is total bollocks, and maybe we should look at waking up and then changing a few things and making it so much better. Right, and then it goes on to say, this is similar in intention to the Yogananda quote. Darkness may reign in a cave for thousands of years, but bring in the light, and the darkness vanishes as if though it had never been. Similarly, no matter what your defects, they are yours no longer when you bring in the light of goodness. Love it. Beautiful. Not even going to say anything more about that. One thing I find interesting about this book is I have been immersing myself in Russell lately. So I have read a couple of his books, and I have also watched a whole lot of videos, lots of interviews. And when he's interviewed by mainstream people about this book, like BBC or whatever, they don't really ask him about consciousness. And yet the whole book is laden, or like it's infiltrated all the way through this underlying idea that consciousness and the shift of consciousness and how we relate to consciousness is the most fundamental aspect that is going to help us to reshape society in a way that benefits all. They don't ask him about it. They ignore it. Instead, they talk about all the other things, the political ideas in the book, etc. Because there are lots of different political ideas in the book. I'm focusing on the consciousness, I guess, because that's my personal bent. They're focusing on the political stuff because that's their personal bent. So hey, there's balance right there. Okay, so I'm sneaky. I'm jumping right to the end of the book here to talk about the self. The self is a construction. Some memories, some feelings, some opinions, a name, a bunch of photographs, real and imaginary. This conglomerate that we hold in our consciousness is temporary. It's an illusion. The boundless energy, the hidden energy that invisibly performs its geometric dance is real. The unified engine that is behind all of diversity is real. The moment of conception, individual or universal, is real. Behind all phenomena, thoughts, things, animals, life itself is an awareness. And if you're at all familiar with yogic philosophy, that is the essence of it, right? The difference between the real and the unreal. That which is temporary and changing, and that which is permanent and unchanging. The form and the formless. It's so beautiful to pick up a book that is mainstream, that is written by a celebrity, that is being talked about on all the different talk shows, etc., that so clearly discusses consciousness. And I know I'm showing my bias all the way through, but I don't care, because I feel this is what's important. As we wake up, as we cease to identify with our ego and instead identify with that greater field of being, we behave differently, we act differently, we make different choices, we see the world differently, we experience the world differently, and the whole world shifts. Coming right back to the beginning of the book now, this is the last one. So the whole book, let's have a little bit more of Russell. The whole book came about because Russell was on a show with Jeremy Paxman, who was an interviewer in the UK, and he's a political interviewer, right? So he's a serious dude and he asks serious questions, and they found out that Russell doesn't vote. And of course, that's like, ooh, this is juicy. We can make something out of this. You know, we can take this guy on television and maybe tear him down a little bit because he's saying all this stuff about politics, but my God, he doesn't even vote. Of course, it's Russell. He's a little bit harder to tear down than that. So when that all happened, and Jeremy was like, okay, so you don't vote, so you don't have a say in what's going on, and you don't like what's going on, but you don't have any alternatives. Like, what would you do, Russell? How would you organise society? And I love the fact that Russell went away and thought, fuck him. Let's show him exactly how we could possibly organise society. And that's what he's done. This is what this whole book is Russell has brought on all of these different thinkers, like Noam Chomsky, and he's just laid out a few different ways that we could organise things. He's not saying this is the right way or that's the right way. All he's saying is it does not have to be the way it is. And we have the power to choose how it is. I love it. So at the very beginning, this is what he says. He's quoting from that interview. And Jeremy Paxman says, and how, may I ask, is this revolution going to come about? Now that is a very good question. It's a question that a far less skilled interviewer than Jeremy Paxman would lob at you. But this isn't a far less skilled one. It's Paxman. And not just Paxman, it's my headmaster. It's the arresting officer. It's the people at work, friends, relatives, well-wishers and bystanders. How will this revolution work? How can we change the world? How can we change ourselves? Can we really overthrow the corrupt and the powerful, not just the corruption in society, but in ourselves? Well, I know the answer's yes. And for the more complicated aspects of that question, while I may not be Margaret Thatcher, and I'm certainly no Mother Teresa, except we agree on condoms, and I've given it some thought. So here we go. Sit down and strap in. And then he goes on to share those thoughts with you. All in all, I highly recommend reading the book. If you're into yoga and meditation and you've never heard of Russell, or you're like, who is this comedian dude? Read the book. If you're into comedy and you're into Russell and you're into celebrities and you're into mainstream world and you're like, what on earth is she talking about with this consciousness stuff? Read the book. And if you're into alternatives to the way that society is organised, read the book. You see, and this is why the book is so brilliant, because it bridges the gap between all of these things and brings it together in the middle and makes it accessible in one easy package. All right, I've rabbited on, probably far too long. That is Revolution by Russell Brand. I highly recommend it. I am Kara-Leah. I would love to interview Russell on the Yoga Lunchbox because he is coming to New Zealand in October. And yes, I'm going to the show. I'm looking forward to it. So I will see if maybe I can make that happen. Alrighty, until next time.